This is Gemara and Eruvin Daf Mem Zayin. The learning this week, the week of the Seres Tshuva, is sponsored as Chus for Shlemba for Yisrael Chaim ben Yehudis. Of course, all our other Chaylim Yidemir ben Yikir, Men ben Yechid Chaim Ramar Chanita Chaim and Certain Sim Yizil Sarvas Kanenda Dvasim Chaisara Yisrael Zarasi Yisrael b'Mindel Yadepin Shavalei Shalom as Amiva Shavego b'Shirchano Faldami Yitri Daniel ben Chan Rezel Chaim Nachman ben Mindel b'Sarch Shar Chali Yisrael. We're going to pick it up on the bottom of Mevavim Beis. We're in the middle of this discussion of Rav Mersharshiyam. That Rav Misharsha came along and he taught us about 15 lines on the bottom of Mevavim Beis. Amar Rav Misharsha Lesnayu Lahani Klali. He didn't hold of all these rules. All these rules are Meir versus Rav Yehuda versus Rav Shimon. All the different rules of who we paskin, like Rav Misharsha says. I disagree. I don't go with rules. Now we began the Gemara. That the Gemara tried to prove, where does he know this from? Where does he find a precedent that we have a case that it doesn't conform to the rules? We had case number one, which we spoke about yesterday, which was the case of the Mishnah of the three Chatziris opened into each other, and the Gemara answered. The answer is important because it's going to keep on repeating itself. So the Gemara said about 8 lines to the bottom, Allah Shmamina L'Snayu, who says Gemara, My Kusha Dil Mehecha De Itmar Hecha Lo Yitmar Lo Yitmar. In that case, we said that the Psak Halacha was right, Rav Shimon, even though Rav Yehuda argued. And the rules say Rav Yehuda versus Rav Shimon, Rav Yehuda should win. So the fact that we see that Rav Shimon wins, said the Gemara, we see that Rav Misharshi holds, we don't go with the rules. On that, the Gemara says, no, maybe just because we had a clear, explicit statement, that in that case, the Halacha was like Rav Shimon, but it's not necessarily approved to all other cases. And that's really going to be the parting line to many of the answers. I think we're going to have 7 potential proofs trying to prove where Rav Misharshi knows that we don't go with the rules. We're up to number 2. Elameha, rather that which we learned 5 lines from the bottom, the Tanan, Ir Shal Yachiv and Asa Shal Rabim. We have a city that's made of a singular city, a private city, and then it becomes an Ir Shal Rabim. It becomes a more public city. We'll see Rashi in a moment explaining exactly what that means. Marvin Eskula, you're allowed to make an Erev on the whole city. Shal Rabim and Shal Yachid, if it's a Rabim city, a multitude city, and then it's made a singular city, Ein Marvin Eskula, then you cannot make an Erev on the entire city. Unless you leave over a specific part of the city, the size of the city of Yehuda. Again, what do we have over here? We have a large city that was made into a small city that was made into a large city. What exactly large and small means? I'm sorry, I thought there was Rashi over here. It's not Rashi over here. Large and small, this goes back to an old machlekes, whether, actually, we on the page in front of us, that I have in front of us, we have Meisav Rashi, which is an important, the Rashi here actually brings it down, so let's just look at that for a moment. All in the left of your page says, Ir Shal Yachid Shloi Nechnasim Batamid Samich Riboy. There's not 600,000 people, Shal B'nai Adam, V'loi Chashivi Rishas Rabim, V'lo Dami L'Digli HaMidbar, and then what happens, it becomes an Ir Shal Rabim, Shani Taisvah D'Yorin Anikvu Bashukim, that it gets more people. So that is the case that we're talking about. This is Shitas Rashi. If you remember the very famous Shitas Rashi that said that to make a Rosh Hashanah you need 600,000 people. So once again, what did the Mishnah say? Again, Memvav Beis is always in the bottom. The Mishnah teaches us we have an Yer Shal Yachid, which means less than 600,000 people, and then it's made into Yer Shal Rabim, which means 600,000 people. What's the din? Marvin is cool. You're allowed to make an Erev over the entire city, even though right now it has 600,000 people, according to Shitas Rashi. Right now it's a Rabim. You're still allowed to make an Erev because originally it was a smaller city. Shal Rabim, not Shal Yachid. The only thing you have to do is leave over part of the city, Sheish V'Chamishim Diurim, that has 50 Diurim, 50 residences. Divri Rav Yehuda says, if you leave over a significant area, says Rav Yehuda, then no one's going to come to think that you can make an Erev over Shas Rabim, and therefore that's going to be the safeguard that when you have this large city that's now made into a smaller city, you're going to be allowed to make an Erev if you leave over that amount of area. Rav Shimon, Aimer comes along Rav Shimon, and he says, moving along to Memzayin Amar Aleph, Shalosh Chatzira Shal Shnei Batim, you have to leave over 3 Chatziros of 2 houses each. That's the area they have to leave over if you want to make an Erev in such a place. Okay, so that is the machlekes. Rav Yehuda versus Rav Shimon. Rav Yehuda requires living over 50 houses. Rav Shimon says 3 courtyards. Rav Shimon, we pass it like Rav Shimon, and yet to Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda argues, and one of the rules that we learned yesterday was Va'amid Rav Yehuda, Rav Shimon, Rav Yehuda. So we see it doesn't go with the rules. So seemingly this is where Rav Misharsha said that we don't go with all the rules. Says the Gemara in the same answer that we had a moment ago, my Koshya, Where we have an explicit statement, where we have, like over here in the top line, Rav Chaim bar Geria teaching us halacha Rav Shimon, that's when we go with Rav Shimon. But all other cases, maybe we go with the general rules. So how do we know, not like the rules, where does Rav Misharshi know his din? The Gemara tries attempt number 3, Alhamid Tanan, 4 lines down, Mem Zayin Amid Aleph. Hamidiyachas Beisai, someone leaves his house on Shabbos, Valach Lishas Bir Acheres, and he goes to live in another city. I shouldn't say on Shabbos, before Shabbos. Israel, whether he's a Jew, whether he's a guy, Aser lebnei chatziris divrei Meir. Meir says the people within his chatzir are not allowed to carry. This is actually a very important rule. It's actually one of the reasons why people run into issue making an ear of chatziris, because every single person within the chatzir has to partake. So if one of them jumps ship, if one of them leaves town, says Meir, the whole chatzir cannot carry anymore. Rav Yehuda Omer, Ino Yisr, no, they still can carry. Rav Yesi Omer, Nachri Aser. If it was a guy that left and you can't carry, Yisrael Ino Yasser. Why not? Which here we get a glimpse of what the issue is, because maybe they're going to come back on Shabbos. Reuven leaves home and he goes to another city. Meaning he's now not part of this ear of Chatzeris. He didn't partake in this bottle of wine, this loaf of bread. So what's the concern? The concern is on Shabbos, Reuven might come home, and now you have a Chatzeris, you have a Chatzer that one of the members is not part of it, so no one can carry. Comes along Rabbi Yehuda, and comes like Rabbi Yesi. Yesi says if it's a guy, then you're right. But if it's a Jew, it doesn't answer, because it's not normal. Jews don't, if they go to another town for Shabbos, they don't come home on Shabbos. That's Rav Yesi. Rav Shimon Aimer, another opinion, I feel nichas beisay v'alch lishvei itzal bitay ba'isay ear. Rav Shimon is the extreme the other way. Says Rav Shimon, he just leaves his house and goes to his daughter for Shabbos, within the same city. She lives a few blocks away. Einay Aser, still it's not Aser. Why? Rav Shimon has a little bit of a different lumbus. Rav Shimon's not concerned that he's going to come home. Rav Shimon says he left. It's considered that this is not his house for Shabbos. He's by his daughter 3 blocks away. Maybe he's going to come home. Says Rav Shimon, I don't care. He removed his das. He's not part of this chutzner. He's not part of this area, and therefore they could carry without him. That is the machlekes Rav Yesi, Rav Yehuda, Rav Meir, Rav Shimon. V'amar Rav Chaim Rav Shimon. Oman Poligalei Paskins like Rav Shimon, even though who argues Rav Yehuda. V'amar, one of the rules we said Rav Yehuda, Rav Shimon lachik Rav Yehuda. So you already can anticipate the Gemara's answer. My kusha. Maybe only over here Rav Chaim said it explicitly. You pass like Rav Shimon. That's when. But if not, not. We're going to continue into the 4th case, just to point out a very important ritva, which I'm sure is bothering people. What's the Gemara doing? Each time the Gemara is the exact same proof, and each time the Gemara is the exact same answer. So what's the Gemara trying? So it's different mahalchim. I think it was ritva that says that not necessarily was each one of these statements taught at the same time. We all know these different prices were taught in different Mati Midrashim, different yeshivas. Our Gemara just compiles them all together. So when our Gemara compiles them, now it makes it sound like it's almost silly. We keep on having the same thing. But when they were taught, they were not necessarily taught all next to each other, and therefore it's not a question at all. Let's continue a 4th potential proof where Mishashi knows we don't go with general rules. This is the din that an ani is allowed to make an erev with his feet, a concept that we've seen many times by erev techumim. You would go out and you just sit there and you're there over bein hashmashes, and that creates, and that's your makim shvis, that's your place of dwelling. That's only an ani, only a poor person is able to do that. As Rashi directly across, you see Rashi is koloimar mishuba derech v'eni may pass. Doesn't necessarily mean he's actually an ani. It means someone on the road and he has no bread. Then he's allowed to create his place of dwelling just by being there. Rav Yehuda Omer, echad ani v'echad asher. No. Says Rav Yehuda, really anyone can make an ear with his feet. It's not just someone who's stuck in the road and has no bread. Anyone who wants, he's allowed to make an eruv by being there. Make an eruv techumin with bread was a special kula. What's the kula? That now an usher, now a wealthy person could stay at home. He could tell his servant, take this loaf of bread and go put it out there. And he himself doesn't actually have to go there. But if you actually want to go there, says Rav Yehuda, everyone agrees you're able to. Maslei Rav Chia bar Ashi, Rav Chia bar Rav. Rav Chia bar Ashi taught Rav Chia bar Rav, Kamei de Rav. Echad ani, v'echad asher. Both of them are able to. V'amarlei Rav. Siyim banam yalach Rav Yehuda. You taught me that what was the psak halacha? Like Rav Yehuda. So Tarti Lamali, why do you have to tell me 2 statements? You taught me statement number 1, Echada Ani, Vechada Ashir, you're able to make the ear with your feet. And then you said, Rav Alachik Rav Yehuda. Why do you have to say 2 things in the same statement? Tarti Lamali, Tarti Lamali, Vamar Meir Rav Yehuda, Lach Rav Yehuda. We know that we have a machlekes Rav Meir and Rav Yehuda. One of the rules were we go with Rav Yehuda, and Rav Yehuda was the one that said that when on the end an usher can make an ear with his feet. So why do you have to come along and say again that echad ani echad usher? It's repetitive. Says the Gemara, my kusha, what exactly was your question? Dilma Rav les leilahani klali. Like Rav Misharshia. Maybe Rav doesn't go with the rules, and that is how Rav Misharshia would learn. But now the Gemara, as you see, the Gemara is not happy with this. The Gemara tries again. So we look at Rashi over here. Rashi keys us in with exactly what's going on. Rashi says, drop down. Rashi says, Rav Leslie Lani Kali. Umishum the Rav Leslie Kamrit Lesnayu. Lesnayu, we do not hold that way. For Rav Yechanan Kamarlu, Valach Rav Yechanan. Meaning, very good that we did find the shita of Rav that doesn't hold the rules. And seemingly Rav Misharsha now would have a precedent who agrees with him. But what's the problem? The problem is who argues on Rav? The person who said all the rules. Who's the person that said all the rules? Rav Yechanan. Rav Yechanan versus Rav. We go with Rav Yechanan. So we're back to a question on Rav Misharsha. I'm just going to point out, just to spoil the fun, everyone should really remember this answer. Because in a few minutes, when we finish all these different proofs, the Gemara is going to come back to this answer, and the Gemara this is actually going to be the maskana. So I don't want to be a spoiler over here, but it's important to know this really is the maskana. The Gemara is going to conclude and say, you're right, the Rav Misharshia doesn't have a real precedent, but maybe Rav Misharshia Mav doesn't hold all the rules. And this is the Rav right over here, and that's why Rav had to teach me, Echad Ani, Echad Asher, both can make an ear with his feet, and as well, Lacha, Ravi Yehuda. Says the Gemara, so now the Gemara continues, because Gemara does not know what I just said, the Gemara just can tell it's in a few minutes. The Gemara tries again to try to find a real Makar from Yishar Shalom Middatan. Hayavama, someone who wants to do Yibam, someone's wife dies, someone's husband dies, and the wife wants to go marry the brother of the deceased. To marry him is called Yibam. To not marry him, there's a mitzvah to marry him. If she does not want to marry him, you have to do a process called chalitza, with the shoe, with the spitting. So Yavama, loitach loit v'loitis yabim. Ad sheba shlosh chadashim. The halacha called havchana, discernment, that any time there's a death, you're never allowed to get remarried, nor do chalitza until 3 months pass. Why not? Because this woman slept with her husband, and maybe she's pregnant right now. And if she goes right now and marries the husband's brother, first of all, if she's pregnant, she's not allowed to marry the husband's brother, because that means she has a child inside her. And even if she's not pregnant, you never know. You're not going to know who the father is. So whenever a woman's husband is nifter, we don't allow her to get remarried, and we'll see exactly how extreme this gzeira goes for 3 months, so we could wait hooker obra. And the truth is, even nowadays, where we could do pregnancy tests and whatnot, this halacha still stays that we always wait 3 months. So says the Mishnah, by Yibam, you don't do Libam, you don't do Chalitza until 3 months. You don't even do Erisin. Nisuin, we understand. Nisuin is the end of the marriage, when you could actually live together. But we didn't even do Erisin until you wait 3 months. And furthermore, even if the previous marriage ended without them actually sleeping together, without them actually having relations, she's still a besula. So you would think, what are you waiting 3 months for? Of course there's no child. They never slept each other. Still Gezerah, you wait 3 months. Whether the husband was nifter, whether it was a divorce, whether they got divorced after Erisin, they just broke the engagement. Erisin's a bit more than engagement, not like engagement that we have. It means after Tanayim are done, but still they didn't actually sleep together. Still, we wait the 3 months. That is the Tanakama's opinion. Rav Yehuda Aimer, Nisuais is Arsu, Varusais Nasu. Rav Yehuda says, no, what are you talking about? If they did Nisu when they were fully married, so you're right, now they can't get fully married. But what can they do? They can do Erisin, they can do the Tanayim, because they're not going to live together. They're not going to sleep together. If they did Erisin prior, then now you can do Yanasu. Now they can do Nisun. Chotz, Me'arusai Sheb Yehuda, a fascinating concept. Then you in the city of Yehuda, even after Erisin, they Shaliba Gaspar, they used to spend time together, they used to Yichud. Machlek is exactly what was going on over there. It sounds like they're actually even sleeping together before the Nisun. Exactly how to understand that is difficult. But therefore, it says Rav Yehuda, in that place you can't. That's the sheet of Rav Yehuda. Rav Yisrael, Kol Anashim Yisartzu Chutz Min Almana. All women can do Erisin except for Almana Mipnei evil. So Rav Yehuda is bothered by a different concern. He argues on the whole premise. Says Rav Yasi, you can always do Erisin, because Erisin you're not going to sleep together, there's not going to be a child. Except if there's an Almana, due to Avelos, for Avelos you have to wait a month. Rav Eliezer didn't come to Beis Medrash that day. Ashchel Ravasi found Ravasi Davikoyim. Ravasi was in Beis Medrash. Amar Lei, my Amar Bei Midrasha. What are they saying in Yeshiva today? Amar Lei, Achim Rav Yechon, Halacha ki Rav Yosi. That we pass like Rav Yosi. That you're always allowed to do Erusin. You don't have to wait 3 months to do Erusin. Aside from the case where there was a death, then you have to wait 1 month because of Avelos. Mechlal, from the fact that we said Halacha is like Rav Yosi, Mechlal the Yechida, Polygalei. Sounds like Rav Yosi was arguing with another person, another Yachid, and we're telling me, and they taught in the Beis Medrash, they go with Rav Yosi. Says the Gemara, indeed, correct. In Vatanya, as we see in a Brisa, if she was going and she was accustomed to going to her father's house, or she was got into a fight with her husband before he died or divorced her, or her husband was very old and never they couldn't have relations, he was sick and they couldn't have relations, or she was sick, she couldn't have relations, Akara, she wasn't able to have children, Zekena, she was too old to have relations, to have children, Kitano, or she was too young to have children, Violinist, a woman incapable of having children, or Stam, a woman just can't give birth, or the husband, the husband's in jail, or if she has a miscarriage after death. In all these cases, basically, these are all the potential cases that we know 100% for certainty that there is no uber inside her, that she's not pregnant, it's impossible, it's incapable, he wasn't around, she wasn't around, she had a miscarriage, etc. Still, says this Brisa, Kulan Srichan Lahantin Gimel Chadash and Divi Rameir. Just like the Tanakam of the first Mishnah says, Rameir, there's a din of Avchana. You always have to wait 3 months. Rabbi Yosi, the same Rabbi Yosi Matir Le'aris L'Nasi Me'ad. Rabbi Yosi is Mekel. Says the Gemara, and that is what they taught in Beis Medrash, that we paskin like Rabbi Yosi, who argues with whom? Rav Meir. Everyone knows where this is going. Says Gemara, Lamali. Why did you have to teach me that? According to the rules, it's Pasha that we go with Rav Yosi. So why in that day in the Beis Medrash that Rav Eliezer did not show up, do they have to teach halachas like Rav Yosi? Says the Gemara, my kushya, what's bothering you? Dilma, lafuki b'Rav Nachman or Shmuel. Maybe it's coming to say not like Rav Nachman, and I'm sorry, and let's just play out the Gemara. And the Gemara assumes that from the fact that they had to say the halachas like Rav Yosi is because that's a precedent for the rule of Ramesharsha that we don't go with rules. And Ramesharsha will say this Brisa shows you that we don't always pass like Rav Yosi, and that's what they had to go out of their way to show they were passing like Rav Yosi. Says the Gemara, what are you talking about? That's not the reason. My kushya. Delma, we're holding in the first wide line. That's a little Taisus over there, about 8 lines from the bottom. Delma lafukim Rav Nachman or Shmuel. Damar, halach Rameir. He argues and he says you go with Rameir b'gzeira Isav. Anytime you have a gzeira, you go with Rameir. So we have to come along and say, but in this case, it's not a gzeira, we're going to go with Rav Yosi. So the Gemara says, so that is not a good proof, because in this case, there's a different reason why we had to say the halach is like Rav Yosi. So Gemara tries another 5th attempt. El Mehadatani, again, looking for the case that we don't go with the rule. You let it go to the sale, to the marketplace of Goyim, and buy from them and animal servants and maid servants. Batim sadis ukramim, houses, fields, and vineyards. Vekoisevu malaber kois. Not only allowed to buy it from the Goyim, but you're even allowed to go to the Goyish courts and write it into their courts. Why shalahem? Why? Memeshu kamatzam yadam. Because we view it as if you're saving it from their hands. Because if you don't go and you don't register it in their courts, they're going to come take away the field from you, so you're allowed to register it. Vimaya kain, and you see how extreme this goes to protect the money of a Jew. If you're a kain, mitame b'chutzlar, to let even leave Eretz Yisrael and be mitame by leaving Eretz Yisrael, ladon to judge, la'ari imam, to fight with the kain to make sure you get your land. Just like you're allowed to be mitame b'chutzlar, it's kach mitame basic varis, allowed to be mitame, a kain is allowed to go into basic varis. Basic varis, hakadaitoch. Tome the Raisi. Whoa, 1 second, says Gemara. You can't go to basic forest. That's a din deraisa. Gemara says you're right. Ella b'beisa pras. They're rabbanan. It means beisa pras, which we've seen many times. A field that there might be some fragments over there, which is a din derabanan. Umetame liseisha v'lo my Torah, and you also could be metame to get married or to learn Torah. Amar Rav Yehuda. So now we have that whole brisa. Says Rav Yehuda. A masai, when does this apply? That's only when you have no one else to learn by. You're a kayin. What are you doing becoming tamei? If you have no one to learn by, okay, we'll let you become tamei. But if you have someone to learn by, don't become tamei. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rabbi Yosi Omer, even if there is a different Rabbi to teach you, nami yatame, still you can be tamei. Why? Lefi, moving along to Mem Zayin Mabei is a very important line of the Gemara. Lefi she'ein min hakol zache. Adam Lilmoy. Not everyone is zeichet to learn from every person. So says Rabbi Yosi, you need a Rabbi. That Rabbi doesn't work for you. Let it go to a different Rabbi. V'amar Rav Yesi. We're going to see a very important Rashi in a moment, but let's finish the story. V'amar Rav Yesi. Ma'isa b'Yosef HaKohen shalach eitzel Rabbi. Yosef HaKohen went to his Rebbe l'sidain lo my Torah. V'amar Rav Yechon halachik Rav Yesi. We pass like Rav Yesi. V'lamali. Why do we have to tell me you pass like Rav Yesi? V'amar Rav Yehuda Rav Yesi halachik Rav Yesi. So what do we seemingly see? We seemingly see that we don't go with the general rules. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, no, we had to say we pass like Rav Yesi. Sagde the Chamina ani bil masnisan. Maybe the rule only applies to Mishnayis. Aval be'braisa im aloi. Kamash Malan, that's what we had to say it like Rav Yesi. So we still, after 7 attempts, have yet to find the case that Rav Mishayshah proved to us we do not go with the general rules. Says the Gemara, Lahachi Kamar Hani Klali Lav Devra Kolmenu. The Rav Leslie Lani Klali. That was the Rav that we pointed out on Amud Aleph. Says the Gemara, what Mishayshah really meant, Hachi Kamar, Mishayshah meant is that not everyone agrees with this rule that we go to general rules like Rav Yechanan taught us. There is one who disagrees, and that is the opinion of Rav. Before we move on, let's just see the top Rashi, a very important Rashi for anyone who's listening to the Shir, anyone who's part of our Baruch Hashem incredible Chabura. Says Rashi, this I believe was what Rabbi Kela said, whoever was listening to the Siyum on Shabbos was referring to, Shleimin al-Kol, Adam Zeichel Ilmoid, Ein Adam Zeichel Ilmoid Mikam Lamdaf. Person can't learn from everyone. Yesh Rav Shem says through Rabbi Piv, there's a Rebbe that the Mishnayos are stura, it's clear in his mouth. V'shaina l'talmidav derech ksara. There you have it. And this is where it comes that many people have a tremendous chavivas, a tremendous love for learning things in a clear and concise manner. For some people, it's the first time. For some people, it's a chazara. For some people, they've told me they use it before their main share. They use it after their main share. Whatever it is, this is where we see in Rashi the concept that there are those who want to learn just straight to the point, the clear-cut halacha, the clear-cut Gemara. Let's continue with that affirmation from Rashi. Let's continue this year. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, and I believe that is what Rakel is referred to in the Siyum on Masech L'Shavs. Says Rav Yehuda, the name of Shmuel, about 10 lines down. Chevsei Nachri Ein Kainim Shvisa. New topic. Well, not really new topic. Something we spoke about yesterday, 2 days ago. When does an item acquire Shvisa? When does an item require its dwelling place? We spoke about Chefsei Hefker, ownerless objects. Says Rav Yehuda Shmuel, items of a guy do not acquire a dwelling place. What does that mean? That means they're not bound to within their 2,000 amis. And rather, what does it mean? As Rashi here points out, they're going to go with the feet of any person who picks them up, but they don't have their own shvisa. Laman, says the Gemara, if this is going according to the opinion of the Rabbanan, Pshita, it's pashut that that's the case. Have ownerless items, let's do bailim that have no owner at all. The Rabbanan hold in kainim shvisa. They don't acquire a dwelling place. Of course, they're not going to acquire a dwelling place. If even ownerless items don't acquire a dwelling place, so this which has an owner will as well not acquire a dwelling place. So who is Rav Yehuda Shmuel teaching this din according to? Can't be the Rabbanan. Must be according to Rav Yechon ben Nuri, who said generally ownerless items acquire a dwelling place. They are kind of their shvisa. They have 2,000 items wherever they're sitting. And on there comes Rav Yehuda Shmuel and says, but if the item is owned by a non-Jew, then it does not acquire the dwelling place. V'kamash malan. When Rav Yechon ben Nuri say he's din koin shvisa, hani mili chatzei afker. That's only by ownerless items. So that's the bailam that have no owner. But items owned by a non-Jew, the islu bailam that have an owner, Rav Yechon ben Nuri will agree that they do not acquire their dwelling place, and rather will go with the feet of anyone who wants to come and pick them up. That is the statement of Yehuda ben Shmuel. That's the qualification of the Gemara, that it's going according to the opinion of Rav Yechon ben Nuri. Meisvei Rav Shimon ben Elazar Aimer, Ha'shayel klimin, someone who borrows a vessel from a guy b'yantiv on yantiv. Chena mashaloi lenachri klimi erev yantiv. Or someone lends a vessel to a guy on erev yantiv. V'achzir loi b'yantiv, and he returns to him on yantiv. V'akelim, or vessels, v'aitrus, and storage vessels, shavsu b'seich hatchom, that are sitting inside the tchom. What's the din? Says this brayso, yesh len al payim amel kol ruach. They get 2,000 amis in every direction. V'nachri, and a guy shevi loi peiros b'chos l'tchom, that brings peiros from outside the tchom. Arizal lazy them come, they can't move at all. Can't move at all because they came from outside the tchom. Therefore, they only get 1,000 amis. They don't get 2,000 amis. That is the end of the brayso. Says the Gemara. Because if you're going to tell me that Rav Yechon ben Nuri is extreme, just like he holds that ownerless items acquire a shvisa and get 2,000 amis, so too items owned by a guy, Hamani Rav Yechon ben Nuri. then this brisa makes a lot of sense, because the brisa taught us clearly that you're borrowing an item from a guy, you're getting an item back from a guy, your guy is returning the item on Yantiv, on Shabbos. What did the brisa say? It gets 2,000 amos, it gets a shvisa, it gets its dwelling place. So it's great to be a Chamanuri. But according to what you, Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, just taught us, because they do not acquire their dwelling place, and rather goes by whoever picked it up. Hamani, who's going to be the author of this brisa, it's no one. Because the brisa says that even an item owned by a guy has a shvisa, has 2,000 amos. But if Rav Yechon Menuri admits by a guy's item that it does not get 2,000 amos, who's the author of this brisa? Says the Gemara, really, Rabbi Yechon Menuri is the author of the brisa. He does hold, just like ownerless items, let's say Hefker Kenim Shvisa, so too items of a guy are Kenim Shvisa. Shmuel Damar Krabanan, Shmuel who said that brisa, Shmuel who said that items of a guy do not get. The items of the guy get their 2,000 amos. He's going to opinion of their Rabbanan. Udka Amr the Rabbanim Shita, and you asked at the top. Again, let's go all the way back up. What did the Gemara start off with today? Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Chavsei Nachri ein kainim shvisa. They do not have a shvisa. So with that Shmuel, I'm sorry if I messed that up. When Shmuel said that din the Chavsei Nachri do not get their shvisa, the Gemara asked, it can't be their Rabbanan because that's pashit. They hold ownerless items, don't get a shvisa, don't get 2,000 amos. Certainly Gaish items. So the Gemara now is coming along that when Shmuel said it din, it really was going according to the Rabbanan. Because Rav Yechon Menuri does not agree. Utka'amr the Rabbanim Shita, you told me it was pashit. The answer is, Mao the Tamer the Havamina was. Gezerah, Bailam the Nachri, to Bailam the Yisrael, maybe we make Gezerah, that just because there's an owner, since there's an owner, you would think that by definition should make it have a Shvisa, the Yisrael, just like if it is owned by a Jew, Kamash Landa, we do not make the Gezerah, but it's not opinion of Rav Yechon Menuri, it's the opinion of the Rabbanan. Rav Yechanan, he says items of the guy really do acquire their shvisa. He makes his gezerah. He said just like if an item is owned by a Jew, it gets a shvisa. It gets 2,000 amos. So too if it's owned by a guy, and that is the end of the machlokes. Let us do one little story over here. There were certain oxen, certain animals that came from a place called Berchasa. So Rav allowed people to buy from them. Ravina said to Rav, why are you telling people they're allowed to buy these animals? You think that the reason is the reason is because they're Gaish animals and therefore they don't acquire Shvisa, so therefore you're allowed to buy them and they'll go wherever you take them. But Shmuel Rav Yechanan, we don't go with the din of Shmuel because Rav Yechon Menuri argues like we just proved, and we go with the din of Rav Yechanan. Says the Gemara, and that is how the story ends. That it was true, it was incorrect, and you should not have been able to buy those animals. So Rava was chayzer, and Rava says, you know why you have to sell them? Because the entire area to him was considered like one big Dalet Amos, the entire town. We'll pick it up from here. We'll go over this last Gemara really quickly in tomorrow's Daf.